Um, Hello, everyone. I'm very sorry on behalf of the team here that we've lost our live streaming, and now we are trying to get everyone on board. We don't know exactly at what point we lost our live streaming, so we are just waiting. You are here at the 10th Pacific Island Nature Conservation Conference, and the session is Our People at the Center of Nature Conservation. Yes, Walter, you could share now. Thank you. And please bear with us because this is the first lot of panels that are happening at this virtual conference. And I think it's fair to say that all of us are learning, and including you as the participants of this conference. I hope that you being able to see the poll that's gone as well, because we want to get some input from you on some questions. And Walter, could you please share my presentation? Yes. One of our panelists say, can participants send a hello message to us so that we know where we, who are you? And, you can contribute that way as well with chatting with us. At some point in time, now we've lost a little bit of time, we might be able to take some inputs from you as well, but the poll makes sure that at least you contribute some of your opinion. We seem to be live again, I've been told. So in introducing the topic, I just basically quickly have to say that unless human and community well-being are addressed in the context of nature conservation, effective outcomes for the environment and people will be difficult to achieve. On the first GF project in the Pacific Island region, the lessons learned that came from Fiji, Samoa, Vanuatu, and Niue were quite clear that no outcomes for conservation could have been achieved if those human and community well-being were not addressed as part of the mix of what we consider our implementation of conservation activities. Next, thank you. So what is the concept of well-being related to nature conservation? It is actually a complex concept, is a holistic concept, but not so complex that we can consider how to go about addressing those in our interventions in nature conservation. It has the dimensions of livelihoods, the goods and services that the environment provides to us, income and work. They may come, attached to some conservation activities, the health and sanitation that having a clean environment brings to us, the learning that we can get from nature, and the security as well. And I think it's particularly important to think, each one of us, how much we have relied on nature this last year with the pandemic, how important has been that relationship we've had with nature, to deal with the uncertainties of the world we live now because of this COVID-19 crisis. Another dimension of well-being is governance, and is the participation and empowerment of people, and whether the right people are there participating, whether they have the right that they need to have, the freedom of choice and action for them, to be able to be good participants in conservation activities, the strengthening of institutions, be local or beyond local, the transparency and accountability that needs to happen, in governance, and the benefit sharing and equity. And another dimension of well-being is culture and connection to place, the identity that people have with the environment, how they are connected with different places for particular reasons, the cultural practices that rely on those places, the indigenous and local knowledge that are transmitted through generation, and the rights and access that we need to observe. And I'm not saying that, for any conservation initiative, we need to be looking at all of those dimensions of well-being. But I'm simply saying that if we want our people to be at the center, of nature conservation, and we are committed to that, we need to understand what are some of those dimensions of well-being that may need more attention at any particular point in time and at any particular intervention, and how those dimensions actually are related to each other, because we can't be implementing good activities for livelihoods if the governance system is one that is providing, disenfranchising certain groups of the communities. It won't work. We can't be promoting governance that is imposed from outside, that basically doesn't respect the way culture and connection to place and customary traditions are, happening in that particular context. So the connection of all of those is important. Therefore, our panel today will be addressing questions that relate to those dimensions of well-being. Next, please, Walter. The questions to panelists from Lessons Learned is, what from your perspective is happening in the region with respect to participation processes that uphold the rights of Pacific Islands communities to make and implement informed decisions about the sustainable use of their environments? Next. How well or not are people, communities, and societies' needs and aspirations in relation to the management of natural resources being understood? Next. How well or not have practitioners in nature conservation been able to advocate and convince people and communities on the importance of nature conservation to livelihoods and sustainable development? Next. Our panelists today are Iliki Senivasa, he's at the Conservation International at the moment, implementing a number of programs in Fiji, but Iliki also has a very strong background on working for the government sector. He was the conservator of forests for the Ministry of Forest in Fiji, for a long time. Dr. Sangita Mangubai is the director of the Fiji country program of the Wildlife Conservation Society. This is a program that have implemented many activities on the ground, have looked at many of the well-being dimensions that I mentioned before, and she will share some of not only her experiences with this program, but her experiences more widely with the topic of social inclusion in the Pacific Islands. Then we have Jolene Nelson, which is the Oceania representative of the International Ranger Federation. She is stepping in as well for Albert, who couldn't be here because, as you can understand, it's a little bit difficult sometimes to figure out the internet connections from areas that don't have very good internet connections, like some of the places in Solomon Islands. So Jolene will be introducing their contributions, and there will be a video attached to that. Next. Our supporting team today is Doug Humane. He's from the Protected Areas Learning and Research Collaboration. He will be acting as a rapporteur. He will be taking and extrapolating some of the main messages, some of the lessons learned, probably including some of the comments that may be coming from the audience, which I hope that after each presentation, there will be some comments coming from you. And thank you, Doug, for this role. We have Walter Van Dam. He is from the SPREP conference organizing team. And from the Varisian group, which is the IT technical support team, we have Andy Xiong. I now invite our first speaker, Iliki. Thank you.
Thanks, Leah. So mbula vinaka to all participating delegation across the Pacific. I say mbula vinaka to you, talofalava, maloelele, good day, namaste from Fiji. So as we await our slide, I'll just go straight because we are running out of time. So I want to say that people in the Pacific, people are always the center of, when you talk conservation, when you talk land use, people are the center. They are the center of gravity. It's where everything will move or not move. So they are key. They are, in fact, they are very important. So when we go into any natural environment perspective, we will always have to deal with the people. I hope the slide will come in soon, but I will be talking on the key questions. So there are key 3 slides that are kind of addressing the question that was put across for us to talk on. So
sorry, Aliki,
slide, please.
You see my slides, Aliki?
No, I haven't seen any slide on the screen. There we go. Well, I guess I covered the first one. So people has been the center of conservation in the Pacific because they own a lot of land. No, most of in Fiji, for example, more than 80% of the land are owned by the people. So if we want to talk of the natural resource, we need strong participation of the people. So the first slide here are talking about the participation process. As I said earlier, Pacific people know the importance of their natural environment. It's their home. It's their source of livelihood. It's where they get their needs. It's their medicine. It's their pharmacy. It's their habitat. It's important to them. It's a water source. So well-being, as mentioned by Leah, is prime. I mean, it's a cream of the things that they want. You know, because they know that if their natural environment are damaged, they'll be affected. I mean, this is important. But the key problem that is coming into play now is when we are thinking like social economic development, when we are thinking of alternative livelihood, we start to increase the use of our natural environment, which then create an imbalance in the whole system. It's unlike the previous time where we have the population is not big and the resource is quite sustainable. They use it sustainably. But when there's a lot of pressure on the resource, then that becomes a problem. So I go straight to the question that was raised. What are some of the success stories? So I see that building partners is a key. You know, we have this Soviet basin, which is a flagship model that CI has been had developed over the past. You know, we need to rope in the people. We need to rope in the government. We need to rope in the NGO. We need also to partner with private sector. This was successful. Soviet Basin was a classical case because it is one of the first long-term conservation protected area in Fiji, but it only happened when there was a lot of partners participating and including the local people. They were key to this partnership. So that was one of the success stories that we see over the years, and it's now we continue to use the Soviet model to support the development of other conservation or critical area that we need to also to protect. The key challenge, of course, is the competing the competing use. You know, in a small island economy, we have this small space, and everybody wants to do everything. You know, everything. Everybody wants to know. We are talking of, for example, now we have a critical example. In this picture here, we were working with FAO to try to broaden the Tomaniivi, this is the red mark here, this is the Tomaniivi, the greater Tomaniivi protected area. The one that is not shaded is actually the area that hasn't been covered. The one that is like in red, this other area that we want to expand in. And one of the key challenge is to getting the people to decide what to do with their land, because there is a big drive for hydro development in this space. So they come up with this idea of, okay, if you, a wish list, they have their list. Okay, you have to provide this and this and this. You have to provide these houses, the number of houses. If you want to be engaged with us, you need to come up with this plan. Because they, in fact, they went back to the Soviet Basin model and they read out and see the benefit that goes to the people and they start to demand. No, because what I say here is that the biggest challenge is competing with other users. You know, for example, hydro, they come up with a very big package. But then how do we address this issue? How can we mitigate this? How can we go around this and try to help the people to see? It's a challenge that we will have to face. A lot of people, a lot of the areas that we are working on have competing players around, hovering around. We have concession areas, loggers who are there. We have hydro, for example. We have mining. They are all competing for the same piece of land. So that was one of the key challenges. The other one that I see, and it's quite common now, is the sustainable financing, because you need strong financial pool somewhere to support the process, the participation process moving forward. The lesson learned, I kind of missed one of the points, but the key lesson that I want to drive here was the time. You know, when we deal with people, you need to give space for them to think. We need to, because it's, you know, dealing with people is like creating this relationship. You know, they need to know you and you need to know them. And it's a mutual relation, so partnership becomes strong in time, over time. For example, for example, the Soviet Basin, it takes us 10 years, takes the party 10 years to establish this protected area. Now we are working on this, the red marked zone in the map here. We are working around now for the last 5 years. We've been working here. We haven't come to a conclusion. But now we have the consent of the people. Then one of the big problem is sustainable financing. How do we pay lease? Who is going to do it? You know, this is one of the key challenge. But what I was saying also, the lesson learned, we need to be strong, because it's not easy and it's not gonna be a short-term thing. You need space, you need time for the people to know, so to be able to say yes. Next slide, please. On the how well our people, our community aspirations are understood. Yeah, I guess one of the key success story that we think it's important is to tell the people the importance of nature. I mean, some of them know that tree is important, but they cannot connect. You know, when we come with, okay, we need to conserve this. Why do we want to conserve? How do you connect trees to water? How do you connect trees to livelihood? You know, these are the keys. So bringing the science to the people, you know, to tell them the importance, the connectivity of this natural resource to basic livelihood or basic resilience in the community. It's very important. I guess that's a key success stories that we've seen in some of in Soviet Base and in some of the areas that we are working around, the terrestrial space, we are working around, even the marine space. We need to tell them what is significantly different or important in the area for them to know. Once they take hold of that, it's easy for them, because in their mind, they know this is their space. It's important for them protect it for them and also for the betterment of the community at large. One success story too we have, and in the next bullet point was engaging them in the planning process. Helping them to see what are the targets, to know the targets, to also to know what are the threats. In fact, most of the threats are related to the activity, anthropogenic. It's what they do. It's what other people do. So it's important to tell them. So this has been a very successful lately. We are working with in the Tuva catchment area under the JEF5 program, the Reach to Real, and we have this catchment area committee, and they are very instrumental when we use them to see the quality of water. Just go with the science people and go and see the quality of water around your landscape, where you are feeding your animal, where you are getting your drinking water from. Just see that, and they really see what is happening. They really know why it's important to conserve this area. They really see why they need to change the way they do things, because they were directly involved in collecting sample and seeing the quality and see how they've been affected. They can easily be affected if you are not careful.
Iliki, we need to wrap up.
Sorry, Leah?
We need to wrap up.
Okay. I want to say that people are ready to participate. The local Pacific people, I'm sure most of them are ready. So a good example, a typical example is this picture on this side here. That's a marine space actually. It just takes few months to work with the Laos Escape, and they come up with a brilliant sanctuary. They declare our island. They support the declaration of conservation of that island because it's an important breeding area for turtle. Next slide, please. Maybe the last slide. Next slide, please.
One more minute, Iliki.
2 more minutes, okay.
One.
Okay, great. This is my last slide. So how well are people convinced? They are very convinced. You see, we have recently we have established Soviet base in 2012, Emalu in 2006, and that's about 6,000 hectares. Soviet basin is around 12,000 hectares, and Kilaka, I know Sangita's area, they established around 2017, which shows these are evidence that people are ready. If we work with them, we commit our time and work with them, engage them, they are ready to participate. The last slide, we just not seen properly here. What else? Okay, what more can we do? The last slide, I say the need to establish, need to strengthen the National Conservation Trust Fund. This is, perhaps it's similar to the Micronesia Conservation Trust or other like national trust financial mechanism. We are thinking of maybe do a National Conservation Trust Fund to support conservation effort. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Iliki. And now very quickly, I invite Sangita.
Great, thank you very much. As I get the slides up, so Bula Vinaka, everyone. Would you just go to slide 2, please? So Pacific Island communities include really different people who use, access, and rely on natural resources in different ways. And conservation or any form of resource management can have different effects on different people in the population, depending on their gender, their age, tribe, clan, religion, or even abilities. And even within any group, there will be differences, meaning that not all women are the same, not all men are the same. And in other words, if you go into the community, you'll actually find they're not homogenous because there are these rich diversity of groups that you have. Keep going with this, trying to get those slides out, Uta. And because of that, yeah, that's perfect, slide 2. And because of that, some people have less power and voice, which limits their ability to participate, for example, in community decision-making, while others actually might be in a strong position to influence decisions. And it is these differences between groups created by the different social factors, as you can see on the slide, for example, that can create hierarchies and structures within the community and power imbalances that lead to and can reinforce inequalities between either different groups or different people. So for me, and I think for many of us, putting our people at the real heart of nature conservation really means being inclusive to ensure that all voices are heard and are offered the chance to be part of discussions, dialogue, decision making. Next slide, please. So what's happening in the region? And just very, very briefly, because there's not enough time. So in the region, there's a lot of work, for example, around setting up locally managed marine areas. So using this as a tool to manage coastal areas, particularly with a strong focus on customary fishing grounds. There's also efforts to look at reach to reef or watershed management. And this is applying a more holistic approach that really gets to thinking about how do you ensure the rights of those at the base of the watershed, for example, are not impacted by the activities and the rights of those at the top of the watershed. And core to some of these approaches that are being used in the Pacific is everyone really trying to create synergies between traditional management systems and modern day management systems, recognizing that communities are increasingly engaged in livelihoods and therefore increasingly engaged in the national economy to different degrees and to different scales. Next slide. So why does something like gender and social inclusion, why does it matter when it comes to community-based management? Well, I'm just going to give you two very quick examples. For example, if a marine protected area is placed where women go out and they glean, as you can see in this image, this can actually have an impact on food security of a household, as many women may need to travel further or work harder to feed their families. Another example is that if, for example, women get together, they might make a plan their resources, let's just say like in that image, a mud crab, they want to look after their mud crab fishery. You know, they need to think about how do they get support from the rest of the community to make sure any rules that they might make are also for the community and that they equally get respect for what they need in terms of looking after. Next slide. Slide 5. So there's been recently a study that has been done that just came out within the last 4 weeks. Uta, could you go to the next slide, please? That came out that was developed between myself and working with Sarah Lawless, a PhD student at James Cook University. And what we've been doing, slide before, slide 5. And what we've been trying to do is to have a look at what are the gender approaches that people are using to include gender in small-scale fisheries management and development, and also what are some of the barriers fisheries institutions, practitioners might be facing. And when we did this work, we decided to have a look at it using, it was interesting, an agricultural framework, which you can see that image on the bottom, where we try to look at the different approaches that people discussed, particularly around what they were doing at the community-based level, and try to categorize them in terms of which approaches reached women, men participants, people in the village, which ones benefited them, which ones empowered them, and which ones really transformed their lives, including, you know, transforming those negative gender norms or stereotypes that might be in place that are acting as a barrier for some to access information or resources or to be part of decision making. And as you can see from the percentages, what was interesting is that most of the approaches that many people are using, and this is very specific to small scale fisheries, but actually if you're doing work in the Pacific, you are mostly dealing with fisheries, is that we found that the majority of the approaches really were designed to reach, you know, men and women, but very few, some benefited them, but as you went up, very few actually truly empowered them or really transformed their lives. And so this is very important because often as we start to think about how to take a gender and social inclusive approach, we do need to maybe step back and reflect these approaches that we've been using, historically used, have got used to, very comfortable using. Are they really reaching out and are they really doing what they're intended to do, and are we really empowering and transforming people across whole communities in natural resource management? And finally, my last slide. So overall, I would say that many practitioners have developed some really good approaches to engaging with communities, built on mutual respect for customary management of natural resources. However, as we saw from the study that we've just done on the small-scale fisheries sector focused on Melanesia, the approaches that are being used are unlikely to really empower, be transformative, especially for rural women and probably for other marginalized groups, which we didn't look at in the study. But we found that gender inclusive approaches were very much limited by the capacities and knowledge that managers and practitioners have, as well as inhibitive institutional cultures to be able to this is meaning that institutions with themselves prepare having barriers that stopped their staff being able to really move into this space of gender and social inclusion. And there is growing interest in ensuring that the approaches that we are using in conservation and protected area management, incorporates gender equity and social inclusion to ensure outcomes are fair, just, and sustainable. However, it's going to take a lot more political will. It's going to take a lot more institutional commitment, especially at senior levels, making sure that there are real strategies that institutions have, and that there really are these systematic approaches to really implement in a very meaningful way gender and social inclusion within the approaches, the projects, the initiatives that we're trying to deliver on the ground. But hopefully we can set together, I think because there's so much growing interest, hopefully together we can set a new benchmark for practitioners working with local communities, so that if we talk about our people being at the heart and at the center of nature conservation, we really do mean everybody and that no one is left out. Thank you.
Thank you, Sangeeta. Thank you, Sangeeta. And may I invite now Jolene very quickly, given that we are sort of running out of time, Jolene. And Jolene will give an example, and bring an example as well from people from the ground.
Yeah, thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Jolene Nelson. I'm the Oceania representative for the International Ranger Federation and chair of the Queensland Ranger Association. Unfortunately, my friends from the Solomon Islands weren't able to join me today as planned, but they can be found on Facebook. So if you've got any questions you'd like to ask them directly after today's conference, then please do. You'll find them under Solomon Island Ranger Association. During this conference, we're going to hear about wonderful dedicated individuals throughout the Pacific Islands protecting their country's wilderness, wildlife, and natural resources they rely on. They are on the front line. I know that sounds dramatic, but they are the men and folk within these communities working towards protecting nature. We actually proudly call them rangers. Rangers in the Pacific Islands are under-resourced, under-equipped, and often underappreciated, when in fact they're heroes. They are the eyes and the ears on the ground and are often an integral part of an equation should any wish to deliver positive community conservation outcomes be achieved. The International Ranger Federation provides a global forum for rangers from around the world to share their successes and failures in protecting nature. Oceania Rangers have been working together to connect personally, share their experiences, develop stronger working relationships, and support each other in managing challenges faced daily. In particular, the Queensland and the Solomon Island Ranger Associations have been sharing basic skills and knowledge to ultimately build capacity of these wonderful people living on the ground, working to protect their valuable resources and natural environments. So the Rangers Training Rangers program was a peer-to-peer approach designed specifically for developing the skills and expertise of participants who live in close daily proximity to terrestrial and marine resources with very limited funding and professional support to conserve and protect these precious resources. We believe that by supporting and protecting the protectors, those people on the ground, on the front line, that you've got a better chance of protecting the environment for the future. Furthermore, we respect that conservation projects can only succeed if the daily needs of communities are appreciated and incorporated into any long-term planning for that area. So the Rangers Training Rangers program was developed with this in mind, giving rangers or community members the opportunity to learn skills that can be used in their everyday life, encouraging them to live sustainably, as well as empower them to become protectors and make practical and attainable informed decisions about future conservation in their homelands. So on behalf of the Queensland and Solomon Island Rangers, I'd like to share a video with you now, summarising the success of the program. You're getting ready there. And I apologise for the quality of the following video. It was made by Rangers, not video experts. So please enjoy.
Thank you, Jolene.
Turn the music up.
Walter, are you ready with the video? And just for all participants, we've been told that we have another 10 minutes to this session. 10, 15 minutes, I will ask the IT team, because that's the time, we lost nearly 15 minutes at the beginning. So can we please be alive for 15 minutes, and the audience, can you please stay with us? Meanwhile, I just also mentioned that we've been told that we are a group of 80 participants here, at least, about half an hour ago. And I'm wondering whether all of you are, basically responding to that poll as well. You have 2 questions that were sent to you previously, and there will be a question at the end, to gauge your appreciation, of your response, put it that way, of this session. And we are just waiting here for the voices from the ground, as Jolene was mentioning to all of you.
Any minute now.
Yeah. Tell me, please, if you get it.
It's on island time.
Yeah. I'm learning.
Wow, aren't we all?
Did you want me to try and share my screen?
And perhaps the audience, while we are waiting, there will be a little bit of time for you to send some comments on the presentations that we have already had here, so far, and just your responses. Chat with us, chat via the function that you can do as a participant. So we would like to hear your response. The other thing, while we're waiting for the video as well, is that, there is a chat function at the conference platform. So our chat about all the topics that we are addressing here doesn't end here. You can connect any one of us as speakers, as participants in this panel through the chat of the conference platform, that we will stay there until the conference finishes. So I hope you can take the opportunity. I'm just filling in time until Walter. Yes. Thank you, Walter.
Thank you.
Could you hear that?
Yeah.
Pacific Island Paradise. Shazi, Rinei, 5 and Ocean, Karim Sabla, right Felix Ikamlo, Ama Masim Leva Blue Blo, Olga Moana Pacifica. Talo Falava. Fava, Tai. So my, Faratasi, loving you forever, Sipoling Amatalasi. So my, Faratasi, loving you forever, Sipoling Amatalasi.
So after 18 months of putting all our ideas together and seeking the financial assistance that we needed to make it happen, we got the go-ahead from the Thin Green Line Foundation and the Queensland Rangers Association for the financial assistance that we needed. We were able to start putting all those ideas together and coming up with our Rangers Training Rangers program.
The model was critical. They must be relevant to the local working environment and challenges of the local Solomon Rangers.
When we look at these examples of what times that happen, we'll say hit by a tree, sometimes in coconut fall down, we'll say you brush low by the coconut, then coconut fall down by your head blue. You start bleeding from here, you're unconscious, even Rolling Stone, that one.
Furthermore, the method of this training should be more participatory, which the rangers could be more involved in, and also hands-on with those activities designed. And also it could be useful to...
Sorry, I played the
Oh,
wrong
Pacific
one.
Island Paradise. Shazi, Rinay, Paiva na Ocean, Karim Sabla, right feelings si Kamlo, Ama Masim Leva, Blue Bla, Olga Tala, Moana Pacifica. Talo Palava.
The design of the model was critical. They must be relevant to the local working environment and challenges of the local Solomon ranges.
When we look at these examples of what times that happen, hit by a tree, sometimes in coconut fall down, you brush low by a coconut, then coconut fall down, bang your head blue. You start bleeding from here, you're unconscious, even Rolling Stone, that one.
Oh, look at that. Some fella good one little bit
I don't, have we got a map? Where are we
For
going?
what? What the hell about me? Say you man yourself in a place, you man no place, or you man no different place.
Okay, I like this place.
Furthermore, the method of this training should be more participatory, which the rangers could be more involved in, and also hands-on with those activities designed. And also it could be useful to the line of work. Yeah.
The recipe is simple.
First step, take a group of knowledgeable and enthusiastic and passionate people in this group.
Mixed with financial and logistical support from your peers, colleagues and donors.
Knit out the focus areas.
Step 4, ensure a solid base of participation and involvement.
Step 5, watch something beautiful unfold.
Hello everyone, we're here at Tetapari, and why not? Why not?
Ayo, Rinay. Karami play golo Samoa ya. Ayo.
This training is new to us and will help us in our daily work in our conservation sites.
In this training, we learn a lot, yeah. It really talks about our level, yeah. Comes down to our level. And that's...
I'm going to share this training to my people I work with.
This training is more realistic and more practical for the rangers because it deals with day-to-day things that the rangers are doing.
Really gain a lot of knowledge from the trainings that we just finished. We hope that we will improve from the standard that we are living.
Yeah, like we experienced the same experience that you have. Yeah, that's why when you come and train us in your experience, we really understand what we are doing.
The training is an avenue for KRA and SARA members to connect personally and share their experiences and build stronger relationships.
This interaction is expected to give us a great perspective, looking at very, very different working environments, dealing with the same broad problems: global population pressure, species loss, and global climate change.
More importantly, support each other in managing the challenges they face in this profession.
I love to be a ranger.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Jolene, and foremost, thank you so much for the voices from the ground, from Solomon Islands, and you know what conservation actually can do to people and can do to motivate people. I just want to check, please, with our IT team, how many more time do we have now in this session, given that we lost a lot of time? Because then I need to make a decision of whether we can take some comments and read some comments from the audience, or whether we need to wrap up and go straight to our rapporteur that's been waiting to give us all the important messages that have come out of our presentation so far. Can we have a feeling? Can you even come to the screen, Angie? I don't mind, but I think the audience and the panelists will need an idea of where are we with the live streaming and how longer do we have?
Yes, so you can have another 10 minutes.
We can have another 10 minutes. So
yes.
If we have another 10 minutes, I suggest that, you know, in the interest of allowing Doug to come in as well, we will invite Doug to provide a summary so far as some of the things that he have extrapolated from all the presentations. And then perhaps in the last minute, we can get some questions, you know, or some inputs. I also want to know, have we received any response from the polls yet? Because if we have, can we project what our poll have said from the two questions, the poll from the audience? Is that possible to do, Angie?
Yes, I believe if Wouter can share his screen, he can see the poll in Hubelo. 1 second.
I actually can't, Andy, if you could do that.
And we share the poll, and then I will invite Doug to come straight after you sharing that. Thank you. Perhaps we should invite Doug to come in while and when you are ready to put the poll on the screen, you just let Doug know and he will allow this space for that to happen. Doug, could you come in, please?
Okay. Since I don't know if Doug will be able to join, but I see here the poll results. So I'm gonna read them out loud. What's your experience with respect to allocation of resources to undertake activities? There's 53% saying moderate and 20% saying good. that's on the second question. How do you rate your experience when it comes to including of social and cultural consideration into your work? There is 41% saying good and 41% saying moderate. So those are the big outcomes of the poll.
Okay, so we seem to be doing better than what I expected, actually, in terms of people's perceptions of including all of those dimensions. But obviously, a lot of resources is still needed on the second poll question for doing so. Doug, are you able to join us in now? So I'm waiting for Doug. Is Doug, you know, part of? I can see that Doug is part of the participants, but he's not coming in. No, he's not. So look, I mean, do we have any questions from the audience? And can the moderating team from Angie and Walter help us with getting some comments or questions from the audience while Doug is coming through here?
We received only one question, and that was about the recording of the session, and that I can say that the session will be recorded and will be available on, or is recorded and will be available on demand after the session. And basically, the other element that came up was that a couple of people were referring to you, Sangeeta, for the study that you were mentioning. So perhaps you can inform people on how to get to you.
Yeah, so what I've done is I put in my email address, which is just my first name and then my last name at wcs.org, and very happy to share. The paper is actually open access, so you can download it, but just also email myself or Sarah Lawless, and we'd be happy to just send that along. And we'd love to hear feedback, because I don't think a study of this nature has been done, and we'd actually interviewed over 100 practitioners working in Fiji, Solomons, and Vanuatu. So, and we'd really love to see how we can take the results of that to work with people, all of us, even our own organizations, on how to try and better, become more diverse in the approaches that we use to really achieve, gender equity and social inclusion in all that we do.
Thank you, Sangeeta.
Okay.
There's one other question, Leah, from that came from the chat box, referring to Jolene, asking where what provinces in the Solomon Islands was this training conducted, and how do we gain access to ranger training programs?
Yeah, okay. So we did it in 3 locations throughout the Solomons. It was Honiara, we went to Tetapari, and we went to oh my goodness, Malaita. So yeah, we tried to kind of spread ourselves out so that a lot of the rangers could come to us. We ended up delivering the training to 120 people or so. But of course, there was all these other community members that also joined in. So yeah, just find us on Facebook. You can either go to the Council of Oceania Ranger Associations, CORA, or come to the Queensland Ranger Association or the Solomon Island Ranger Association, and let's just start talking. But we would love to see this training rangers package go to all of the Pacific Islands, definitely. And I know there's some keen Australian rangers that would love to definitely help out our Pacific friends.
Okay, that was it, Leah.
Okay, thank you so much for that. And Walter, is there anything else coming? Is there any specific questions for Iliki as well?
There's very many thank yous for a great presentation from Eliki, but no particular question.
Okay, is there any more comments that have come through the chat as well that you can share with us? Is there anything else coming? Is there any specific questions for Iliki as well?
Very many.
Looks like Doug's coming.
Yep.
Yes, looks like Doug, are you there? Can I invite you to quickly come and just, now we are running really out of time. So just, 3 or 4 key points that you got from both presentations. Thank you, Doug. We've been waiting for you to come.
Thanks very much, Leah. If we want to go straight to the key points, I think, and there was a little bit of chat, as you will have seen, with great enthusiasm for all the presentations. I think the key points that come out at the end are the importance of collaboration, the importance of considering equity alongside equality, the need for adequate information for people in making decisions. And I think the remark that Rudy made, which in the chat, which is the importance of managing people as much as managing conservation. I particularly valued each of the presentations for some of the unique elements of each. Alikis, who was able to demonstrate the importance of the competing resource uses in the Sovey Basin and the essential need of explaining the connections of natural resource to the basic reliance of the communities, and of people being appropriately and properly informed in order to participate. Sangeeta had some wonderful illustrations, and particularly that last illustration that she had demonstrating the access that people have to resources. And Jolene, who sort of brought it all home in demonstrating the connection of people and the need for relevance in what people are doing in their line of work, and the connection between the local and the global, which I think Jolene emphasised in that video, in enabling people to respond to climate change. So really it bookended with your introduction, Leah, and the focus that people on people and their connection to nature.
Thank you, Doug, very much. And, you know, I want to thank all of the panelists. I also want to thank all of the support team. This has been a bit of a challenging. I want to thank you, all of the participants. We had 112 participants at the end. And I just want to finish you, if I can get this Zoom video working and sharing with you, with a farewell song from Fiji that I have enjoyed so many times with children, because if we are going to build nature conservation in Pacific Islands as being for our people, for the people of Pacific Islands, and from the people and to the people, we really need to be thinking about our future generation. Thank you all. And do we please have the last poll going as well, Walter, in terms of people's response to this session?
That one, I can't tell you straight away, my dear.
You can't tell you what?
I cannot tell you that like that.
Okay, all right, that's fine. Okay, thank you then. All right, I will see how we can end with this video, and if not, I can't do it, then we will just
We'll have to sing. Is that what you want us to do, Leah?
Goodbye, everyone, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference. Bye-bye from us, all of the panelists. Thank you.
Bye.